Finnick Shand, at last I have you in my clutches. How do you like my collection of art? Each piece comes from a different species from across the galaxy. I guess it's interesting in a lame sort of way. You know, when you understand a species' art, you understand that species. So I'm guessing none of your art was made by women, then. You'll pay for your insolent tongue. No, leave me alone, you red-eyed freak! You are mine. Prepare to get the blues. Not so fast, Thrawn. Boba Fett. Yes, it's me, and I'm here to save my girlfriend. You should have stayed in that Sarlacc pit. Hey, what'd you do to my friend? The same thing I'm going to do to you, big boy. And you too, you freak. At last, we are alone. No, I hate you. I hate you. Leave me alone. Yet, I do find your blue skin strangely attractive. Of course you do. Bounty hunters are often attracted to military intelligence and power, and I have both.
Brett!
What?
I need you downstairs.
Knock on my door. Knock next time.
Okay.
Did you see anything?
No, I didn't see you playing with your dolls again.
Good. Not dolls, they're action figures. Oh shit.
Every ship they add to their arsenal increases the threat to our own armada and the Emperor's plans.
I trust you have a solution.
I will start my operations here and pull the rebels apart piece by piece. They'll be the architects of their own destruction.
What's up, Star Wars nerds? Welcome back to the channel. This is episode 50 of Brett on Fett. And for today's video, it's going to be all about one of my favorite Star Wars villains to never grace the silver screen. That's right, I'm talking about Grand Admiral Thrawn, one of the Empire's most ruthless and intelligent military leaders. And so what I want to do is go over all the action figures that have been produced over the years for Thrawn. But before we get into the figures, in case any of you are not real familiar with Thrawn and who he is and what he's about, I do want to go over the character himself. So let's take a look at who Thrawn is. So many younger fans were probably introduced to Thrawn as one of the main antagonists in the animated series Rebels in 2016. But older fans may best know him as the main villain from the critically acclaimed trilogy of Star Wars novels by Timothyzahn published in the early 1990s. Those books included Heir to the Empire, Darkforcerising, and The Last Command. Those books continued the story of Luke, Han, and Leia after Return of the Jedi and were considered part of the Star Wars Expanded Universe until Disney acquired the rights to Star Wars and decided to take the Skywalker story in a different direction, making the original Thrawn trilogy of books non-canon and now referred to as part of the Legends stories. But after the re-emergence of Thrawn in the Rebels cartoon series, Thrawn was once again made canon, and Timothyzahn wrote a new trilogy of books about Thrawn's rise within the Empire. Those books included Thrawn, Thrawnalliances, and trawntreason. Most recently, Zahn published yet another trilogy about Thrawn's even earlier days before joining the Empire called the Thrawnascendancy trilogy, with the books chaosrising, greatergood, and lesserevil. Thrawn has also made a number of appearances over the years in comic books, including his own comic book series from Marvel, simply called Star Wars Thrawn. So who exactly is Thrawn? Well, for starters, Thrawn's real name back home was Mithron Nurodo, but he became well known by what people called him in the core star systems as simply Thrawn. He was a member of the alien race known as the Chiss, known for their human-like appearance but with blue skin and striking red eyes. Before joining the Empire, Thrawn served in the Chiss military force known as the Chissascendancy. During his time in the chissascendancy, while searching for allies to defend his people, he actually met Anakin Skywalker and even fought alongside him at one point during the latter days of the Clone Wars. Following the rise of the Galactic Empire after the Clone Wars, Thrawn offered his allegiance to Emperor Palpatine, feeling that joining the Empire was the best way to help keep his people safe. His career in the Imperial Navy was highly successful, proving himself a brilliant military strategist, and after a series of promotions and impressive victories, he received the rank of Grand Admiral from the Emperor. With that promotion, he became commander of the infamous 7th Fleet, flying with its flagship, the Star Destroyer known as the Chimera. Thrawn was as brilliant as he was ruthless. He used knowledge and observation to achieve victory and believed understanding everything about his enemies was the key to defeating them. So he collected the art from his enemies' culture and studied their history and philosophy before going into battle with them. As shown on the animated series Rebels, while Thrawn was battling a band of rebels led by herasyndulla on the planet Lothal, Jedi Padawan ezrabridger used the Force to call a flock of Purrgil to help him. The Purrgils, which are large flying animals capable of traveling into hyperspace, surrounded Thrawn's ship and pulled it into hyperspace, taking both Thrawn and Ezra into the great unknown. It is said that Thrawn will re-emerge in the upcoming Disney Plus series Ahsoka, making his live-action debut in a Star Wars feature. Alright, so now let's take a look at the action figures that have come out for Thrawn, starting with 1998, the Power of the Force 2 Expanded Universe line. This was the very first Thrawn action figure. It is a 5 POA figure, and he's not a terrible looking figure. He's got that Salamiri tree lizard that he wore around his shoulders in Heir to the Empire to repel the Force. It's got his comic book image there on the side. Unfortunately, my bubble has a ding on it, a really bad one. I need to get a better version of this. And there's another image from the comics based on the novel Heir to the Empire. And these card backs are really cool in that you could cut these open, they unfold to reveal a little display stand. So that was a pretty neat idea. And there is a look at the rest of that expanded universe wave. So very cool stuff, and here is some Macquarie concept vehicles as well. So, overall, pretty cool little introduction to Thrawn in the action figure toy line. The next Thrawn action figure did not come out till 10 years later in 2008 with the Heir to the Empire comic 2-pack. These were those packs where they'd come with a copy of the comic book and it'd have 2 characters featured in that comic book, and so this one has Thrawn and then another prominent character from Heir to the Empire, Talon Karrde. This is one I do not have in my collection but would love to get my hands on. He's pretty pricey in the secondary market, but as you can see, it's a much improved Thrawn over the original 5 POA one. This one does have more articulation and he looks pretty good, and it's just a great duo of characters to get in a set. Next up is Thrawn from the 2016 Rogue One line, which I always thought was a little bit odd considering this is clearly the Thrawn from Rebels, and they did have a Rebels line, but Thrawn was released on the Rogue One series, and he has this ridiculous giant missile shooting weapon. All these Rogue One figures came with these ridiculous weapons for kids, but he looks really good as far as capturing the way he looks from the animated series. But he is 5 POA, unfortunately, so just not good enough for today's standards, but he does capture the look of the animated character very well. So, and I do like the image of him on the card back there, so I think this is a pretty cool one. Next up in 2017, we got the Black Series Thrawn. Now, the original release was on the black and red packaging, but this one I have in front of you is from the Archive collection, but it's the exact same figure. And I think this one looks really good. The articulation is a little bit dated, but you don't need great articulation for an Imperial officer. But I really love the head sculpt on this guy. His military insignia looks good. He's got his little code cylinders there. Nice little touch. Paint apps are pretty decent. It's overall, it does the job. It's a pretty good Thrawn. He's got some rotation there at the hips. Like many of these older Black Series figures, the head swivel is extremely stiff. But I do like his little blaster pistol. Looks pretty good. It's kind of a gunmetal gray paint on that one. Pretty happy with that. And then you got the kind of softer plastic holster there. So overall, pretty happy with this Thrawn. I'm wondering if Hasbro will actually release a newer version once he makes his appearance on the upcoming Ahsoka series. Next up is the granddaddy of all Thrawn releases, in my opinion. This is the San Diego Comic-Con 2017 exclusive Grand Admiral Thrawn for the Black Series. This was a holy grail item for me that I've been wanting for a while. I think I featured it on my Holy Grail episode I did last year. And I've just been biding my time, waiting for the right deal. And a great deal came about with a Star Wars store that does online sales and ships. And so I bought it from these guys. I'm not going to mention their name. And I bought it like the first week of December as like a Christmas gift to myself. And Christmas rolled around, it didn't show. Got into January, started messaging them, hey, can you give me the status? And they told me they shipped it within like 2 or 3 days of me purchasing it. And they weren't sure what was going on. I asked them for a tracking number, and at that point, it seemed like they stopped responding to me. They weren't answering my question on the tracking number. And so I had to just keep bugging them. And then finally, around mid-January, they wrote me back and said, oops, we're so sorry. We found your package is still here in our store. We thought we shipped it. Here's the tracking number, and we're going to ship it now. And so it did finally arrive, I think the last week of January. So all is good now. It was just a really stressful period of time because I thought, I had lost this holy grail of mine that I got a great deal for. Didn't think I'd find that deal again on this item. So anyways, all good. Let's take a look at this thing. So first off, this thing is huge and the packaging looks so awesome. It's got this slip cover, this triangular shaped cover that's kind of the shape of his Star Destroyer in blue to get that blue look of Thrawn, where he's actually in black and white behind it. And there's his Star Destroyer on the back, and you can pause that if you want to read the little description there on the back. But man, what a very cool outer packaging. So let's just take this little slip cover off. It's a little bit tricky. You got to be careful. I don't want to wrinkle it. We'll put that to the side. And as you can see, it's got the traditional Black Series black and white image they were using back then. And it's split down the middle. And again, let's take a look at the back of that Star Destroyer art. Wow, it is so cool. I love the art on this thing. Now mine is a little bit of rough shape. You see the pop tape, the tape's coming off a little bit there, and there's a little bit of a ding. It's not perfect, but it was worth the deal I got. And so opening this thing up, it's like, wow, you got Thrawn's office on his Star Destroyer with all his artifacts that he keeps. And these are really neat little Easter egg artifacts here. First off, you've got the Haxkika stone. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But this is from the Dark Crystal. How cool is that they brought the Dark Crystal into this? And then you've got the Holy Grail from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, another Lucasfilm movie. So that's pretty cool. And then you got Commander Gree from Revenge of the Sith, the guy that was on the Kashyyyk with Yoda, got his head chopped off by Yoda. And then this is really cool. This is that Ysalamiri, the tree lizards that repelled the Force that Thrawn used in Heir to the Empire. Now that is no longer canon, but for the Rebels show, they did include that statue of those lizards. And so you've got those in there too. And then you have Depabillaba's lightsaber. Depabillaba was a Jedi Master. She was actually Kanan Jarrus's master. Kanan Jarrus being the Jedi from the show Rebels. So that's pretty cool. And then you got a Jedi Temple guard helmet. So that's really neat. Those are those guys that were in charge of protecting the Jedi Temple. And so that's a really cool helmet. And then last but not least, you've got Herasyndulla's family Calicori, their little family heirloom. It's kind of a generational art piece that's passed on for Twi'lek families. So really cool artifact features in this package. And then of course at the center you've got Thrawn himself. And this is basically the same figure as the one I showed you before. It's got some very minor detail differences, such as his holster has some more weathering on it, and I think his military insignia plate is slightly different. But that's about it. But overall, such a cool set. Man, I wish Hasbro would still do more creative stuff like this for convention exclusives. And I just wanted to quickly mention that John, the action figure grader on YouTube, actually has this set graded by AFA, and it got a 9.25 on the modern scale. What an awesome display piece with an awesome grade. Unfortunately, on this old video of his, he still had it in the poly bag, so that's why it's so blurry looking. He's got the bag off of it now, and if you ever go to his channel, which you definitely need to subscribe to Action Figure Grader, you won't regret it. But you'll see in a lot of his videos, he has this in the background on his desk, and it looks amazing. I think I would like to do this someday for mine, but mainly just to get the custom acrylic display for it, because it looks so awesome. As far as the grade, mine is not completely mint, and so it'd probably only get about an 80 plus, I'd say. And moving on, and finally, for action figures for Thrawn, just last year in 2022, as an exclusive for the New York Comic Con, Gentle Giant put out a Grand Admiral Thrawn jumbo figure. And this thing is pretty awesome. I was a little bit disappointed with the card back image they used. It's real dark, it's just not a great angle. But the figure is exactly what you'd expect from Gentle Giant with these. He looks really good. I love the paint apps on the face and the eyes. And it just screams vintage Kenner. They do a great job with these. I really love these jumbo figures. Unfortunately, I just don't have the room to put this guy, so I decided to pass on him. But yet another great addition to the Gentle Giant Jumbo series. Alright, and finally, I just, as a fun bonus, wanted to show some other Thrawn toys, non-action figure Thrawn toys. Starting with the Funko Pop Thrawn. This is from the 2017 Star Wars Celebration in Orlando. It's exclusive. Really cool Funko Pop. Unfortunately, extremely expensive on the secondary market. So I will not be buying this guy anytime soon. And then this one I did not know about until I was making this video. This is a 2022 Star Wars Celebration Anaheim Hallmark Itty Bitty. And this thing is pretty darn cute for a Thrawn. It's pretty hard to make Thrawn cute, but Hallmark managed to pull it off with this itty bitty plush exclusive from the Star Wars Celebration Anaheim convention. And my son and I collect Star Wars Lego, and so of course I wanted to show the Lego Thrawn. He came with this Phantom Lego set and a very cool minifig. I love the print on his face and of course the blue hair. Very cool stuff. One of my favorite minifigs that we have. And one final note I just want to bring to everyone's attention in case you did not already know. We still do not have a Thrawn figure in the vintage collection. If you watched my episode 47 where I went over my top 25 TVC wish list, Thrawn made my list at number 2. You'll notice I put him on my list as being the Thrawn from Rebels, but that was just because we don't know what he's going to look like on Ahsoka. And even though it's more than likely, I'd say 90% chance if they give us a Thrawn, it will be on an Ahsoka card back from that series. I just want to make sure we get the Grand Admiral uniform version of Thrawn when he comes out. Alright, so that's going to do it for this special Thrawn episode of Brett on Fett. Let me know in the comments if you're a big Thrawn fan and what your favorite Thrawn piece is from your collection. Also, just a reminder, I'm slowly inching towards 500 subscribers for my channel, and once I hit 500, I will be having another awesome giveaway, so keep your eyes open for that. Thanks so much for watching. As always, thank you so much to my subscribers. Don't forget you can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. Take care, and we'll see you next time.